Chapter 27 of Jin Ping Mei Chongzhen edition of Embroidered Portraits. Lipinger whispers about the Jade Pavilion. And Pan Jinlian is drunk and making noise in the grape trellis. The word sees brocadetants with mandarin ducks and embroidered quilts with phoenixes. A kind of romance has thousands of forms, looking at the fragrant skin. The jade flute is hidden, and the parrot's tongue is secretly tasting it. The fragrant fragrance is still slanting and cold behind the screen. Looking back at the charming eyes, I look forward to Tanlang. 1,000 pieces of gold must be cherished at a moment's notice. The silver arrow has been missed early. The star sinks into the net, and the moon turns round the quarter. It is said that Baosheng came from Tokyo and returned to Ximen to celebrate in the scroll shed. He said specifically, "I came to Tokyo to see the housekeeper who gave me the gift first." He handed down the book and then introduced me. The Grand Master read the notice, took the gift in, and handed it over clearly. The master ordered, "Write a letter in the near future," and immediately sent someone to patrol Shandong with the marquis, and release the 12 detainees including Wang Jian, assault Gaston Kangzhou, Shandong. Uncles, I replied to his father. The master's birthday is June 10th. On the 5th day, I will teach my father to go to Beijing for a walk. He has something to say to him. After hearing this, Ximen King was filled with joy and immediately sent him back to Qiao Dahu to talk. I saw Ben Si and Lai Xing walking towards me, and I saw Ximen King and Lai Bo talking, standing beside them. After coming to Bao, he went to Qiao Dahu's house. Ximen King asked Bai Si, "Have you ever come back after having a fever?" Bai Si did not dare to speak. Lai Xing'er stepped forward and whispered in Fu'er's ear. Song Ren walked to the incarnation field and stopped the body, not allowing it to be burned. His words were so rude that I dare not say anything. If Ximen King didn't listen, everything would stop. After hearing this, he was furious and cursed. This young bachelor is so abominable. He ordered the servant, "Please ask your brother-in-law to write a post." He sent Anna to send it to Li Shixian. Then 2 officials were sent to take Song Ren to the county with a rope. And they asked him whether he had cheated money and relied on corpses to make money. There were 20 boards in the hole, and the blood from the beating was dripping down his legs. I wrote a confession and was not allowed to stalk Ximen King's house again. He also ordered the local fire armor to burn the corpse with Ximen King's family in mind. Song Ren had sores on his legs from the sticks. He was very angry when he returned home and suffered from an epidemic. Within a few days, he sadly died. Exactly, people will have lost on meet the 5 pox, and hungry ghosts hit Zhang Kui in the cold water. As soon as Ximen King finished the affairs of Song Huilian, he arranged for 300 taels of gold and silver, and asked Gu Yin to lead many silversmiths to build the silver figures, with Fu Yang's holding longevity in the rolling shed at his home. Each one was more than a foot tall. I made 2 more golden longevity pots. I found 2 pairs of jade peach cups and 2 sets of scarlet and multicolored grosgrain and silk python robes woven in Hangzhou. The only missing items were 2 black burnt cloth and scarlet gauze pythons. I couldn't find any money in the field. Lipinger said, "I have a few uncut pieces of python upstairs. Let me take a look." Ximen King then went upstairs with him to look for them, and picked out 4 pieces. 2 pieces of big red gauze. 2 pieces of the black burnt cloth was made of colorful python robes woven with golden lotuses, several times stronger than the woven patterns, which made Ximen King extremely happy. So I packed up and came to Baodong. Manager Wu left King County on May 28th and went to Tokyo. 2 days later, it was the 1st day of June, and the weather was very hot. When the red bird arrives at noon, a flaming umbrella is in the sky without any clouds. It is truly a time when rocks are shining and gold is flowing. There is a single saying about this shitness. Zhuangnan came to whip the fire dragon, and the fire clouds burned the sky. The sun's disk does not move away at noon, and all nations are as if they were in a red furnace. The green stems of the 5 mountains are covered with clouds, and the sea of Yanghu is filled with sorrow and thirst. How could the golden wind blow out overnight and sweep away the heat in the world for me? Ximen King has not gone out recently because of the hot weather. He stays at home with his hair down to escape the heat. In the Jade Pavilion in the garden, I watched the boy fetching water to water the flowers and plants. I saw a pot of daphne flowers planted in front of the jade pavilion, blooming in full bloom. Simon King ordered Lion'er to hold a small watering can and watch the watering. I saw Pan Jinlian and Li Ping'er wearing white and silver-striped gauze shirts and tightly, whereupon colored gauze with gold threads and muddy skirts at home. Li Ping'er is a red Jia Bujia, and Jinlian is a silver red Jia. But the golden lotus does not wear a crown, dragging a nest of Hangzhou Chui Yanzi nets, with its fur sides exposed, and 3 green flowers on its forehead, which makes its pink face and oily head more and more obvious, and its red lips and white teeth. The two walk over holding hands and smiling, seeing Simon King watering the flowers. He said, "You are watering the flowers here. Why don't you comb your hair?" Simon King said, "Teach the girl to bring water, and I will wash my hair here." Jin Lian called Lion. "Put down the watering can. Go to the house and tell the girl to get water and a comb quickly. Come to an Ying Nuo." When the golden lotus saw the daphne flower, it wanted to pick it and wear it. Simon King stopped him and said, "You weird little glib, I'll reward you with 1 flower for each of you." It turned out that Simon King had already picked a few flowers from the flower next to him and dipped them into a jade porcelain bottle. Jin Lian smiled and said, "My son, you cut off a few flowers and put them here instead of wearing them with your mother." So he grabbed one and stuck it in his head. Simon King handed over Xi and Li Ping'er. Shamai brought a mirror comb, and Qiu brought facial cleanser. Simon King handed 3 flowers and taught them to be worn by Yunyang, Li Jiar and Meng Yulu. "I will invite Yu Sanyang to come and teach him how to play the ukulele and I will listen." Jin Lian said, "Bring Meng Saners. Wait for me to give it to him. Teach Chun Mai to give it to his aunt and Li Jiar. When you come back, give me a flower. I only sing for you. You should also give me a flower." Simon King said, "Go and come back to you." Jin Lian said, "My son, who raised you so well. You coaxed me to call Ming Saner for you, but you didn't come with me. I won't go. I won't call you until you give it to me." Simon King smiled and said, "You little slut. I'll take the lead here." So she gave him another flower. The golden lotus hairpin was placed beside the cloud, and then he went to the back. After leaving Li Ping'er alone, Simon King saw that he was wearing bright red gauze trousers under his gauze skirt. The sun's shadow was exquisite and clear, revealing his jade bones and nice muscles, and he couldn't help but feel lustful. Seeing that there was no one around, and he didn't comb his hair, he pressed Li Ping'er on a couch, lifted up her Hunan skirt. Her red skirt was just beginning to fade, and she held the fire across the mountain and fucked him for a long time, but his semen was still not released. The two of them played Yufei to the fullest. Unexpectedly, Jin Lian had not gone back to call Yulu, so she walked to the front door of the corner of the garden, thought for a moment, handed the flowers to Chun Mei, then came back and tiptoed quietly, walking outside the jade pavilion and listening. After listening enough, I heard that the two of them were doing a good job inside. And I heard Simon King say to Li Ping'er, "My dear, if you don't love anything else, I love you so much. I'll do my best today. It's useful." After a long time, Li Ping'er heard again and shouted in a low voice, "My dear Dada, please don't bother opening the door. It's inconvenient for you. I made you a little heavier when I ate you last time, and I hurt your little one. My stomach hurts, and it has only gotten better in the past 2 days." Simon King asked, "Why are you inconvenienced?" Li Ping'er said, "To tell you the truth, I am pregnant. I hope you will take care of it more." After hearing this, Simon King was filled with joy and said, "My darling, why didn't you tell me earlier? In this case, your father can just play around." So he was extremely happy and affectionate, and he felt it with both hands. The stock leaked like a bet. The woman bowed her buttocks to receive the semen. For a long time, I could only hear Simon King panting and the woman's soft voice, which Jin Lian heard outside. While he was listening, he saw Yulu coming suddenly from behind and asked, "Fifth girl, what are you doing here?" Jin Lian waved her hand. The two of them walked into the pavilion together, and Simon King was in a panic. Asked Simon King, "I've been here for half a day. What are you doing? You haven't combed your hair and washed your face yet." Simon King said, I'm waiting for the girl to get the jasmine soap to wash my face. Jinlian said, I can't say. Baba, look for that soap to wash your face. No wonder your face is whiter than other people's buttocks. After hearing this, Simon King didn't take it seriously. After finishing dressing up, he sat down with Yulu because he asked, What are you doing in the back? Did you bring the yukin? Yulu said, I will wear beads and flowers for the eldest sister in the back, and tomorrow I will meet Wu Shenshen's daughter-in-law Zheng Sanji. Have tea and wear it. Yukin Chunmai is brought. After a while, Chunmai came and said, All the flowers have been given to the eldest lady and the second lady. Simon King ordered him to arrange for wine. Soon plums and floating melons were sinking in the ice basin, and the red and green trees were leaning on the pavilion. Yulu said, Don't you want Chunmai to invite eldest sister? Simon King said, He doesn't drink, so there's no need to invite him. At that moment, Simon King sat down, and the three women fought on both sides. Exactly how many pots are there to pour fine wine, and how many treasures are there? Pan Jinlian didn't sit on the chair, but only sat on the porcelain turret. Meng Yulu called out, Fifth sister, you come over and sit on this chair. The cold peer is just afraid of the cold. Jinlian said, It doesn't matter. I am not afraid of freezing the fetus. What are you afraid of? After a while, after 3 rounds of drinking, Simon King asked Chunmai to get the yukin, teach him Yulu, get the pipa, and teach Jinlian how to play. You just sing a set of The Red Emperor is in power, and shines on Takesu, and I will listen. Jinlian refused and said, My son, who raised you to be so obedient, every time I sing, you two will enjoy it and be happy, but I won't. I also taught sisterly how to play the chun instrument, Simon King said. He doesn't know how to play anything. Jinlian, he said. He doesn't know how. Teach him to act as a board next to him. Simon King smiled and said, This little slut bites maggots alone. At the same time, Chunmai ordered Chunmai to spin a pair of red ivory elephant boards and teach Li Ping take it. Just now, the two of them relaxed their jade fingers, straddled the shark gauze, and sang Wild Geese Crossing the Sand in unison. The maid Shu Chun was fanning nearby. After singing for a while, Simon King handed each of them a glass of wine and ate with him. Pan Jinlian didn't stay at the table, only sipping ice water or eating raw fruits. Yulu said, Fifth sister, why do you only eat raw and cold food today? Jinlian smiled and said, I have nothing to do. Are you afraid of cold cakes? Li Pinger was standing next to him, his face red and white. Simon King glanced at him and said, You little slut. You only talk nonsense. Jinlian said, Brother, you talk too much. My old mother ate dried bacon while she was asleep. It was a little bit weird. Just a little bit. What do you care about him? In the middle of drinking, I suddenly saw clouds in the southeast, fog in the northwest, faint thunder, a heavy rain, and the flowers and grass in front of the pavilion were all wet. Exactly, the rivers and Waihai are filled with new water, and the green bamboos and red pomegranates are washed clean. After a while, the rain stopped, a rainbow remained in the sky, and the sun shone through in the west. How much to get? The light rain passes over the blue rock, and the cool evening breeze brings the clearness to the courtyard. I saw Xiaoyu coming to invite Yulu from behind. Yulu said, Eldest sister is calling. There are some pearl flowers that are not worn. Let me go, it will make him weird. Li Pinger said, Let's go in together. I also want to see my sister wearing pearl flowers. Come on. Simon King said, Wait while I give you a gift. So he took the yukin and taught Yulu to play it. Simon King lined up his players, and everyone sang together. Prefacetto, Liangzhou. Xiangwan came to Nangshuan in the rain, and saw the red makeup on the pool surface was messy. The thunder gradually faded, and the rain stopped and the clouds dispersed. But smelling the fragrance of lotus for 10 miles, and the crescent moon, this beautiful scene is infinite. After bathing in orchid soup for the first time, my makeup will remain in the evening. I was too lazy to go to sleep at dusk in the deep courtyard. Together the golden thread sings, the blue tube persuades, and a beautiful banquet is ranged on the iceberg and snow threshold. King World, how many people can you see? Again, there is a sudden noise of new cicadas in the willow shade. and I see fireflies flying into the courtyard. Where can I listen to Ling? Painting the boat and returning home late, I saw that the jade rope was low and the shuhu was silent. This scene was still enviable. Get up and hold your bare hands together, ranging the clouds. The moon shines on the screen and the cook is awake. Before closing, higher and higher ripples play with colorful mandarin ducks, and green lotuses turn over. The fragrance pours down and the pearls splash. Incense fan, beside the fragrant grass, beside the leisure pavilion. I feel refreshed and healthy when I sit there. Ping Lai Langyuan is nothing to envy. Together I am afraid that the west wind will startle autumn again, and I will secretly not realize that the years are changing. The crowd sang without realizing it. Yulu handed the yukon to Chun Mai and went back with Li Pinger. Pan Jinlian then called out, Meng Saner, wait for me. I'll go too. After leaving Simon King and walking away, Simon King grabbed his hand and said, little oily mouth, you hide away from where? I won't let you go. He only held me for one round and almost didn't even take one turn. The woman said, that's weird. You do have gone away. What do you want me to do if you leave me behind? Simon King said, let's get some wine under the Taihu rock and play in a pot. Eat 3 cups. The woman said, it's strange that the dealer left the pavilion and didn't cast. What are you doing here for nothing? You don't believe it. Even if Chun Mai is a little meat, he won't get you wine. Simon King Yan make Chun Mai threw the yukon to the woman and walked away happily. The woman took the yukon, played it once, and said, I asked Meng Saner, and I learned a few words. As she was playing, she saw pomegranate flowers blooming by the Taihu Lake after rain. She broke a branch and tied it in a hairpin. Next to Yan King, he said, my mother has been going without food for 3 days, and her eyes are dazzling. When Simon King heard this, he walked forward and picked up his 2 little golden lotuses, jokingly saying, I'll take this little whore. If you don't look at the world, you will die. The woman said, you're a weird traitor. Don't talk to me. Wait until I put down the yukon. Then she leaned the yukon on the edge of the flower stand and said, my son, you and Li Pinger went to Japan just went away. Why are you bothering me when you have no place to talk? Simon King said, it's strange that I'm a slave. He only talks nonsense. Who has anything to do with him? The woman said, my son, your actions can't hide the land. Who is I? Come and hide it from me. I'll send flowers to the back. You 2 are making a good living. Simon King said, you little whore, stop talking nonsense. Then she pressed her on the flower bed and started talking. The woman quickly put her tongue in his mouth. Simon King said, you teach me how to say Dada. I will spare you and let you get up. The woman could not resist, so she asked him to say Dada. I am not your favorite. You come to pester me. What's wrong with me? The 2 exactly. The Ariel's tongue is clever in clearing the sky, and the flower branches are especially beautiful in the rain. The 2 were naughty for a while, and the woman said, let's go to the grape rack and throw pots and play with the zither. She put the yukon on her arm and played the second half of the preface to Liangzhou. Every day is high. It feels refreshing to think about it at night. It's such a cool day. In the Qingshu Hall under the moon on Yaodai, the gods and immortals are having a feast. There was a heavy banquet, teaching jade leeks and silver arrows, and music in the Crystal Palace. Before closing, epilogue time flies as fast as lightning. It's a good night, but it's a pity that it's too late, and the music is loud and joyful. The 2 walked side by side. After a while, they turned around the green pond, past the Muxiang Pavilion, passed in front of the Jade Pavilion, and went to look under the grape trellis. They were holding a good grape trellis. But see, it is surrounded by carved stone balustrades, autumn tiles, and surrounded by deep green leaves. The frost in your eyes is like 1,000 branches of purple hanging tassels. The fragrance of autumn is like thousands of green clouds hanging from embroidered ribbons. The horse's breast sparkles, the crystal bowl is filled with fine nectar. The green beads are rolling, and the gold flakes are filled with emerald green. It is a seed imported from the western regions, hiding the fragrance of sweet springs. The 4-season flowers and trees at Duen line the quiet flowers, and the bright moon and refreshing breeze are priceless. When the two of them arrived under the shelf, they found 4 cool piles and a pot beside them. Jinlian leaned on the yukon and threw a pot with Simon King. I saw Chunmai holding wine and Kyuju holding a fruit box with a bowl of ice cold fruits on it. The woman said, "Little Roar, you have lost your temper in your head. How can you send it to the future again?" Chunmai said, "Where are you still looking for me? Every time you go, who knows you will come here suddenly." Kyuju put it down. Simon King opened the box and found 8 small handfuls of delicate fruits and vegetables, a small silver bottle of wine, 2 small golden lotus bells, and 2 pairs of tooth tendons, which were stored in the box and placed them on a small cooling dish. Simon King and the woman were sitting opposite each other, throwing pots and playing tricks. In a moment, the feathers and flowers crossed the bridge, and the flying geese poured in. They were ranked first. The second Kiao read the book. Young Fei went to sleep in the spring. The black dragon entered the hole. The pearl rolled up the curtain and poured dozens of pots. The woman was so drunk that she suddenly felt the peach blossoms on her face, and her eyes squinting sideways. Simon King wanted to take medicine and spice wine, and asked Chunmai to get some wine. Jin Lian said, "Little oily mouth, please go to the room and get the mat and pillows. I'm so sleepy, so I'll lie down here for a while." Chunmai pretended to be coquettish and said, "Okay. There are these messengers. Who will take it for you?" Simon King said, "If you don't want to take it, I will teach Kyuju to bring it over, and you can just take the wine." Chunmai shook her head and laughed. After half a day's delay, I saw Kyuju coming with a mat and quilt in her arms. The woman ordered, "Put down your bedding, close the garden door, and look into the room. Come when I tell you." Kyuju agreed, put down her quilt and pillow, and went straight away. Simon King stood up, took off his jade gauze, put it on the railing, and went straight to the flower stand beside the peony stage to clean his hands. When I came back, I saw that the woman had already laid out a quilt under the shelf. She had taken off her clothes and lay on her back on the quilt. She was wearing bright red shoes and was shaking a white gauze fan with her hands. When Simon King saw it, he couldn't help but feel lustful, so he took off his upper and lower clothes while still drinking, and sat on a cool pier. He first teased the center of the flower with his toes, and the semen flowed out like a snail's saliva. At the same time, he took off the woman's red embroidered shoes, took off his 2-foot straps, tied his feet, and hung them on the grape trellises on both sides, like a golden dragon probing its claws, making the female door open wide and the red hooks exposed. The chicken tongue spits out. Simon King first lay down on his back, holding the handle of the bamboo pole against the mouth of the female, poured it into the plum blossoms, put one hand on the pillow, and lifted it with all his strength. The lustful smell in his vagina was like a loach swimming in the mud. The woman had no place to call her and kept calling her. While I was working in the beautiful place, I saw Chunmai boiling wine. At a glance, I put the wine down and walked to the Woyan pavilion on the top of the rockery, where a chess table was set up and played with chess pieces. Simon King looked up and saw him, and called him with a little hand. "If he didn't come down," he said, "Little Oily, I can't help you. Just come here." Then he left the woman and walked up to the pavilion from the stone steps. The Chunmai had already gone down a small path on the right, passed through the snow cave of Zongchenwo, and walked halfway deep into the green mountains and flowers and trees. She wanted to hide and didn't want to be bumped into by Simon King, so she hugged her waist in the dark shadow, said, "Little oily mouth, I'm looking for you too." Then he gently hugged him under the grape trellis, and said with a smile, "You can have some wine." He hugged him and sat on his lap, giving each other a mouthful, drinking alcohol. When Chunmai saw the woman hanging with her legs tied to the frame, she said, "I don't know how you behave. In the broad daylight, people come and bump into you, and you look weird." Simon King asked, "Has the corner door been closed?" Chunmai said, "I buttoned it up when I came." Simon King said, "Little greaser, watch me throw a meat pot into a meat pot. It's called a golden bullet and hit a silver goose. Look, if I hit a bullet, I'll drink for a minute." So he took a jade yellow plum from the ice bowl, hit 3 of them in the woman's eyes, and all of them hit the center of the flower. Simon King drank 3 minutes of medicine and 5 spice wine in a row. Then ordered Chun Mai to pour it for an hour and handed it to the woman to eat. He also put a plum inside the female body, but did not take it out or do anything. The anxious woman's sexual desire was not disturbed and her sexual fluids flowed out. He just had dim starry eyes. His limbs were hanging on the pillow mat. And he shouted, "What a mischievous enemy! You are dead for playing tricks on me." The voice trembled. Simon King asked Chun Mai to fan beside him, and drank and ignored him. He ate here and there, lay on his back on the drunkard's chair and dozed off, and fell asleep. Seeing him sleeping drunk, Chun Mai came over to touch him, and then he slipped into the snow cave and went to the back. I heard someone calling Zhao and opened the door. It turned out to Li Pinger. Simon King slept for an hour. When he opened his eyes and woke up, he saw the woman still hanging on the rack with her 2 white legs hanging on both sides. She was extremely excited, seeing that Chun Mai was not in front of him. He said to the woman, "Whore, I'll leave it to you." So he first picked out the plums from the hen and taught the woman to eat them. Sitting on a pillow, he took out the penis bag from the gauze folds, put a silver holder on it, and tied the base with a sulfur ring for the first time. At first, he refused to go deep, and only beat it back and forth at the opening of the female. The anxious woman he leaned forward to greet the broadcast and kept shouting, "Dada, come in quickly, I'm so anxious. Whore, I know you are annoying me, because Li Pinger deliberately caused this to do nothing to me. Today's scripture I won't dare to mess with you anymore." Simon King smiled and said, "Little whore, it's easier to talk to you if you know." So Yibi pulled out the words and opened them in the bag to cover up his feelings. Twist some girly girl's voice, and apply it into the frog's mouth. Push it into the female's body, and send it a few times. For a moment, those words were loud and bold, and he became furious. He lowered his head and started to pull him back and forth, playing with his incoming and outgoing moves. The woman was beside the pillow, with dim eyes, moaning incessantly, shouting without words, "Big dick! Dada, you don't know what kind of trick you used to get in. That's all, the whore's heart is itching to the bone marrow. I'm sorry, I'll forgive you, come on." The slut screamed out the murderous words. As soon as Simon King started to take action, he held down the pillow with both hands for 300 or 400 times. He leaned up and tried his best to catch the sex, and then fucked her until he was wet at the root. There were about 100 more. The woman wiped the fluid from the female's body with her handkerchief, and then wiped it out, making the mat all wet. Simon King is a traitor who has no brains and keeps coming and going. Because he said to the woman, "I want to act like an old monk ringing the bell." He suddenly raised his head and looked forward, and then the words went in, reaching the top of the female house. The female house is located deep inside a woman's body. There is a house like a bud. When you reach this point, the man's stem head feels so smooth and beautiful that it is indescribable. The woman felt the pain and hurriedly crossed her body. She heard a crunching sound and a sulfur circle was folded inside. The woman's eyes were closed. Her breathing was light. Her voice was slightly hoarse. Her tongue was cold, and her limbs were tucked up on the mat. Simon King panicked and hurriedly untied her. He dug out the sulfur ring from the female and broke it into 2 pieces, so he helped the woman sit down. After half a day, her starry eyes flashed and she woke up. Yin Simon Qingzhao sobbed and said, "My daughter, how could you be so evil today? You almost lost your slave's life. You can't do this again in the future. It's not a joke. I am now a formidable leader. I don't know where I am." Seeing that the sun was setting, Simon King quickly put on his clothes. He called Chun Mai and Qiuju, packed up the quilt and pillow, and helped him return to his room. When Chun Mai came back, she watched Qiuju take away the drunkards. Just as she opened the garden gate, Lei Zhao's son, Xiao Tiguaner, came out from under the flower stand and chased Chun Mai to ask the girl if she wanted some fruit. Chun Mai said, "Little prisoner, where are you coming from?" She gave him a few peaches and plums and said, "Your father is drunk. If you don't go forward, I'm afraid he will beat you if he sees you." That monkey he caught the fruit and kept going. Chun Mai opened the garden door and came back, sending Simon King and the woman to bed. Exactly, in the morning. There will be a banquet in the Golden Valley. And in the evening, I will accompany the children of the Red Mansion. Resting in the entertainment place, the flowing light chases the sunset.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.